Hi everyone, welcome again to our next episode. It has been so exciting. There have been a lot of feedback, actually, a lot of questions as well on many things. So we're going to address a lot of things. So we're going to go step by step as well. But before we go into that, Lynn, I think we should share again because people were asking the last time as well about the workshop. So,
Mm,
which is coming up in November. Yeah, end of November. That's what we have planned. And that workshop is going to kind of give you a real hands-on experience with all the things that we've been speaking about so far. So soon we'll let you know the dates. It's going to be in Kuala Lumpur and save your date. Yeah, save your date so that you'll be able to join us and not just hear what we've been speaking about, but actually experience that. Right? Yeah. Okay.
yeah, looking
So
forward to that.
yep, we are really excited. Yes, definitely. Okay, so today we are looking at, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about mirror work and shadow work and inner work, right? This has been the terms that a lot of people are using these days, understanding your shadows, understanding yourself or your inner work or the mirror work. But the most important thing is, what does this really mean? Right? Are we digging into the past? Because I've also got feedback about people asking me, am I like digging into my past, like remembering all the things I don't want to remember? I don't think it's really that. But I think it's more about creating an awareness about whatever that's happening and then coming to an acceptance before we can really move forward. What do you think, Lynn?
Shadow work. For me, it's a very big, broad topic. I know that shadow work um, is a is a term that people use a lot, even
Mm,
though technically it's something that is pretty deep and pretty complicated. It's um, in my way of in my practitioner in my healing training, we don't do shadow work until the person is really ready to look at the
yeah,
shadows.
yep,
But I think here we're talking more in a broader term where we talk about things are hidden, things that are following our back and are sabotaging us in some
yeah,
ways. So in that sense, then it can be pretty broad, and I think for today we look at it from the lens of soul contract and see how that um, can work out and what are the core elements around shadow work, just so our audience have a bit of what's that thing, framework to
yeah,
work with
yeah,
if they start noticing, or if they want to start digging into their shadows.
yeah,
But yeah, in whatever ways, I think it's an integral part of our journey. We
true.
can't just leap forward without addressing what's holding us back, addressing the shadows that are not seen yet and not accepted yet. No. I mean, just within that is two elements of shadow work.
You're right. It's very, very
Yeah.
broad actually. And there's so many areas of the shadow work, right? And usually, like what you mentioned just now, which I agree, a lot of times when we are not prepared to see the inner journey or the shadow work or whatever that's happening within, it
Mm,
can be very difficult to actually understand and work through it, right? And soul contract gives us the most subtle experience of that. That's how I look at it as well. It's a bit more subtle. It's a subtle experience of understanding what is really happening. So, and that
mm,
understanding, we can really look at it in terms of the karmic imprints that are showing up on charts.
yep.
Okay. And
Yeah.
that would already kind of guide us into the bigger part of the shadow work. And
Mm,
then when you receive that reading and then you're told, oh, this, and the best part is when you're able to experience that because it is there within you, that is when the journey begins,
mm, yep.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you have to say about the different elements around shadow work that people can, who are new to work or shadow work, can use as a frame to
Yeah.
move
I guess
forward?
it's like everything has its step, right? I think why we even use steps is because it's easier to relate to. So I guess one of the biggest thing with this would be awareness. We also mentioned that in our last episode with being stuck,
Mm,
right? And for those who haven't watched, you can always go back to that episode and watch that. But awareness is definitely number one, you know,
yep.
and exploration, understanding, acceptance, integration, and reframing. So these are the main five elements. And
Mm,
maybe we will just speak briefly on each of them. So awareness is where you notice what is happening, what is triggering you, what's going on. Even recognizing is very, very important already here.
mm,
Okay, before we can even do anything else.
mm,
And when we actually are aware, right, that doesn't mean that we are really prepared as well. So you have to also look at that. That is where we look at exploring,
mm,
understanding, because awareness is one thing. We spoke a lot about awareness actually last episode, but exploring what is this, understanding what is happening, kind of tracing it back. Where did this come from? Is this something I'm experiencing now? Is this something from my childhood? Or is this something from, for those who believe in past lives, from a past life experience? Or is it from different space and time? Or first of all, is it even mine? Right? I think many times when we are exploring, right, we always explore to see first where is this coming from me. But sometimes it could
mm,
also not be yours. It could be somebody else's imprints that we've been carrying. So I guess exploration will be one big one when you look at
yeah.
this. Yeah, how would you resonate with that?
I think, well, for me, generally, exploration also means like to take stock of how this pattern or this shadow is hindering me. How is it holding me back? How does it affect my life? It's like giving it full visibility in that sense. Like you fully see it for every nook and cranny of how it shows up, how
Right.
it's impacting, how it's holding you back, and even how it's serving you. Because most of the time, shadow has got certain um, so-called benefits,
Agreed.
hidden
Absolutely.
benefits that either keeps us. Sometimes when you say that it keeps us small,
Mm,
it can also be a benefit because, for example, in the concept of family constellation, a child generally does not want to be more successful than the parents. So when there is a shadow keeping the child stuck in unsuccessful ventures or in life,
mm, mm.
uh, or in unhappy relationships just because the parents are unhappy, that's the kind of shadow that's keeping us less than our parents just because we don't want to be more than them. We don't want to be
Mm.
better than them. So that sort of patterns or sabotage or shadow can be very insidious and very
Yeah, very subtle.
sometimes, yeah, it's like you can't consciously explain why do I not want to be happy? Why do I not want to be
Yeah,
successful?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
there's just so many um, things hidden underneath the surface. Like the unconscious is what 95%, and the
Yeah,
conscious part
conscious is,
of the iceberg
yes,
is only like five
about
percent.
5%. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So um, that exploration is all about like seeing the different facets, different ways that this shadow is playing up in your life and how it serves or does not
Yeah,
serve you. Yeah.
absolutely. I think one very interesting thing that came up for me just now as you were saying this is how this is so related to manifestation. We're not going to go too much into that because that's going to be like later we're going to talk about. But how what we don't really realize that 90% or 95% could be one of the reasons why our manifestation is not even appearing or is taking time, right? So I think shadow work and inner work and things like this play a very big role in that as well, right? But that is not a topic we're going to speak about today because that's going to be like maybe later in time when we speak about it, right? Um,
Mm.
Now, so exploration is very important to find out and trace the root of it, find the root of it, right? And then when that happens, that's where acceptance can actually come in. Because now you've already kind of understood, traced it, and then you kind of validate it, and then you know that this has been kind of a pattern now. You're looking at
Mm.
it that way. Because somehow, when we explore, we would start noticing that this is a very subtle pattern. Could be a different person, different situation, different environment, but the story could be the same. The pattern could be the same. And when we recognize that, that is the point we're able to really accept it.
Mm.
And with that acceptance, we stop the fight or we stop the spiraling, the questioning, and finding out
Mm.
why. And we're able to come to terms kind of with it.
Yeah, I think when it comes to acceptance, it's also a very long journey that I've learned through my years of meditation and exploring spirituality. Because a lot of us, we think that we have come to accept something, but actually we're just pushing it under the carpet. It's like we either ignore it, like I don't want to see this, or you resign yourselves to it. Like you accept, but with resentment,
Yeah. And
and that's very
once
common.
um it doesn't mean that also once you've accepted, it doesn't appear again somewhere else, right? Because it is a continuous process anyway.
Yeah, acceptance doesn't mean that it's going to be healed yet.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
accepting
so
doesn't really say that, oh, now I recognize it, I accept this, I've made peace with it. But it's more than that. That is where all this inner work, shadow work, self-exploration, all the different methods come in. And I guess this is where we are able to also bring in the soul contract work when we understand it from the logic perspective, okay, from the human perspective, and we're able to see it, right? And once we have that acceptance, only then we can integrate all of this, right?
mm,
Because if we are looking at integration, which means that we are looking at working on it already right now, right? And we are not going to be able to work on this unless we have already come to that awareness, we have explored, we have accepted. Only then we are able to put the puzzle together. Because this whole thing is about
yeah,
kind of fixing the puzzle, like actively really understanding what is happening.
yep,
And now we are bringing conscious choices in because you are aware,
mm,
right? So, yeah, so integration would take time. Integration is a lot of work, but it is worth it. Definitely, it is worth it, right?
yeah. What are your favorite tools to work through shadow work when it comes to integrating?
Okay, so for me, when it comes to integrating, a lot of my work that I do are my own work, which because I've learned over the times, right? And it's a lot about work, which is definitely healing, bringing in
Mm,
deeper questions, meditation. And I have my own way of doing things like activators and optimizers, which I bring in into the work because a lot of it hits to our subconscious. And again,
mm,
like I said, none of these tools would work for every single person because there are many. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I've come up with my own work because
mm,
it kind of has to be very human friendly and not
mm,
very scary. Like
mm,
just about last week or 2 weeks ago, I had this client who came up to do this work with me, right? And the first thing she said was, I'm not sure what am I going to do here. And I said, fine, relax, we will get this done. And with the tools that I worked with her, at the end of it, she said, oh my God, you know what was the first reason I didn't want to see you? Was because I didn't even know what to say to you. So that is
mm,
the beauty about this work. You don't have to say much, but it allows whatever that is happening to come up very subtly.
Mm.
And how about you, Lynn?
Well, for me, I think over the years, meditation is very helpful for me, like Vipassana. So
Yep,
especially when I now have soul contract as a tool, then I already know exactly what's going on. Like, okay, when there's some trigger or when there is something holding me back, what's playing up.
yep,
And then if I use Vipassana, and another tool that I use is the Course in Miracles forgiveness process to actually uh, understand it. Like, okay, let's see what it's trying to teach me here, and then turn it around and see it for what it is, see it for
yeah,
growth and for love and learning, as opposed to seeing it as a as another sabotage or another hindrance.
forgiveness,
So the whole process is very practical for me on a daily basis. But when it comes to healing, then I use divine healing. Or I call it spiritual psycho spiritual therapy or psycho spiritual alignment. And in divine healing, we also pick up different patterns, different hidden programs, ego sabotages, or fears, trauma, or shadows as well. Like there are hundreds of charts that we work with, and even when you don't know what is going on, we would use intuition and kinesiology as a tool to actually help map out what's going on and
what's happening? Yeah,
what's the picture of um, the different elements playing up at the same time. It can be a combination of different things. It can be trauma plus interference, energetic interference, or imprints, or DNA, or many different things
yes,
that
many
can
different.
come together to create a picture of reality that someone is experiencing. So for divine healing, I find that it's super helpful for me in the last 4 years, that to help accelerate the clearing process and
Yeah.
integration process. So yes,
So
that's my
I guess
take.
if the way we look at it in terms of example, we would say that the soul contract reading is the first one that creates the awareness because that's the common tool that we are using, right? And even though we both are using different tools, but we are able to bring that effect, the end result, kind of the end result, which is towards what you want, which is peace, right? At the end of the day, peace, understanding, and things like that. Because it's not really about the tools, but it starts off with the awareness,
Mm,
knowing it.
yeah,
And then the tools, we kind of fit in the tools wherever it's necessary and what works
yeah,
for each
yeah,
person. Yeah.
yeah.
And that is, once we're able to do that, the integration takes place, then we are able to reframe, right? So that's the fifth element, which is reframing. So now reframing meaning you're able to see what is hidden. You're able to use that now for your highest best because we are now seeing it in different point of view. You're looking at it as, oh, okay, this is what was happening. This is my shadow. Okay, this is what I was working with. Now I'm aware. Now, how can I use this? Because one important thing I think everybody should also kind of hear here is the karmic imprints are actually our strengths. So they are not really 100% challenges that are going to pull us down. Okay. So now,
Mm,
now that you understand that and you are able to absorb that as your strength, you're going to reframe to see how you're going to be able to use this for your highest best, right? So
mm,
reframing is a very big tool as well at the end of all this process. So now you're aware, you explore, you accept, you integrate, you finally, the important part is to reframe. Because if we don't reframe, then nothing is really going to happen because the reframing, I would say, is the practice, the
mm,
constant practice, is the daily habits and the
mm.
actions that we're going to take, right? Um, yeah. So I think
Yeah.
that's how I would look at reframing. So five of them, which is awareness, exploration, acceptance, integration, and reframing. Very big
Mm,
elements in terms of understanding what is happening within. Because for some when they hear shadow work, it's like, oh, what woo-woo. shadow is this about? But in simple terms, it simply means understanding deeper layers of me without spiraling into a deep side. That's all what it means,
Mm,
simple words.
yep. And I think it's one of the most important aspects when it comes to soul growth, because growth is nothing but clearing out whatever that we no longer need or no longer serves us, and embrace new opportunities and new possibilities. You know, it's that spiral upward that we every one of us has to journey through. And every time we meet that same spot on the spiral, we are meeting our old shadows, our old patterns,
Yeah,
but on a deeper level.
true.
And it's because we are at a stage where we are ready to face it, ready to let go, ready to, what's that word? Embrace the medicine
Yeah,
that comes from the shadow. So we can turn that shadow into something that can be used to serve
yeah,
the
service.
world. You know,
Exactly.
like from perfectionism, once you work through it, it turns into compassion, turns into understanding. From emotional impulses, it turns into empathy and that sensitivity towards other people's
Yeah,
feelings, and into wisdom of understanding the different perspectives of life and people's behavior and people's emotions. So all of this, whether you use soul contract as a framework or you don't, contains that gift necessary for you
yeah,
to bring out to the world. Or even if you are not using it in the world, you use it for yourself, you know. Because otherwise you would also be um, dipping yourself in that sort of um,
loop
uh,
and
that
work.
swamp. I call it a swamp
Yeah,
of all the different very muddy stuff, and
yeah,
there's no joy in it. Right? So as you turn it around and turn into medicine for yourself, you live a life with more self-compassion, more self-understanding, uh, better intuition, and connection with higher purpose
yeah,
and all of that.
yeah, yeah,
It's a beautiful thing. So to me, shadow work or however you call it is just a necessary step for everyone's journey. And
yeah.
we at
And
some point
only
we
when
just
you're
have to
ready,
work with it.
definitely. And only when you're ready, that's for sure.
Yep.
You know?
Mm.
Yeah. So
Right.
today basically what we summed up was what we call the inner journey, because a lot of people were asking us what is the shadow work and inner journey, right? So again, those five elements would be awareness, having awareness, exploring, accepting, and then when you have already done that, you're able to integrate and finally use it, which will be reframing. Okay,
Yep.
right? So
Mm.
that's all for today, and definitely we will come up again next week with I'm sure more questions will come in, and we'll answer those questions as well. And for those of you who are looking forward to our workshop, keep tuned because there's going to be advertisements and teasers coming up soon. Okay, and you can save your date from there. Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you so much, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.